Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're going to look at Exodus chapter 33. There are 23 verses beginning in verse 2. At the same time has been omitted. I will send at the same time my angel before thy face. So this looks like it is referring to, this is Yah speaking to Moshe. Go forward, go up hence, you and your people, into the land. I will give it to your seed, and I will send at the same time. So once they get to that land, that's when the angel will be sent to drive out the following people. In verse 2, Girgashite has been omitted. The Girgasite, they're not in there, and that's a continuous difference throughout the Sept and the Maz. So the Maz omits Girgashite. Verse 3, with you, verses in the midst of you. I will not go up with you, because you are a stiff-necked people. So there, the stiff-necked, there it is right here in verse 3. It wasn't in the previous, I had mentioned this, I think, a few videos ago, a few chapters ago. Here it is. They are a stiff-necked people, but it wasn't mentioned in that other chapter. So with you versus in the midst of you, let's see what the context is in verse 3. I will not go up in the midst of you. So that's a big difference. Let me just denote this. A big difference. Because he's saying, our Father is saying, actually not the Father, this is the Son, isn't it? This is the pre-incarnate Jesus Christ. So every time I said the Father in the past, you just have to forget what I said regarding that. When it's the God of Israel speaking to them, it's actually the Son speaking to Israel, because no one has heard or seen the Father. So it is, in fact, Jesus Christ. But it's important to remember that whatever the Father's will is, it's also the Son. They're one, united, unified. They are one in that sense. So verse 3, I will not go up with you. This is talking about the journey they would take to the promised land. I will not go up with you. Or maybe it's referring to that promised land. Once they get there, that's why the angel is sent there, because you're a stiff-necked people. So I'm sending my messenger on my behalf. That makes more sense, actually, because he did follow them. Technically, if you count the pillar of fire and pillar of cloud, that was his divine manifestation in a way. So technically, he kind of was with them. Okay, let's just get a better angle there. Okay, so that's a big difference. Verse 3. I will not go up in the midst of you. How does that make any sense? If he's sending an angel, a messenger on his behalf, why will he not go up in the midst of them? He won't go up, period. So the sept makes a lot more sense in that respect. Verse 4, the whole verse is different. And the people, having heard this grievous saying that he won't go up with them, mourned in mourning apparel. So they put on special clothing to denote that they were grieving, that they were not happy. Verses, and when the people heard these evil tidings, wow, or calamitous tidings, they weren't good news anyhow. It was grievous to them. Okay, it was evil tidings, evil news, versus a grievous saying. They mourned. Okay, that's the same. And no man did put on him his ornaments. Why would men wear ornaments? That's a woman's thing to do. So they mourned in mourning apparel. That is what the Sept is saying, truthfully so. Verse 5, everything after stiff-necked people is different. So let's look at that in verse 5. Take heed, lest I bring on you another plague. I will come up in the middle of you in a moment. Okay, so that's not the same. A plague versus I will come up in the middle of you is not the same. And destroy you and consume you. Okay, it's similar. Now then, put off your glorious apparel and your ornaments, and I will show you what I will do to you. So I don't know if this is just being sarcastic or sense of humor, but he says, put off your glorious apparel. Clearly they were not wearing glorious apparel, they were wearing mourning apparel, and your ornaments, and I'll show you what I will do to you. Versus, therefore now put off your ornaments from you, that I may know what to do unto you. So verse 5, take heed. This is a statement of his concern for the well-being. It's not a tyrant. He's not a tyrant like in the Mass. He is a loving parent scolding their child. He's correcting them for their benefit. He is not a sadistic, authoritative figure who's just punishing them and getting pleasure out of it. Or maybe he's just impatient. No, that's not what's happening here. He's showing them that he will do to them what he will do to them, not that he has to figure things out. So the Mass is saying, I may know what to do to you. No, he already knows what he's doing. He knows the past, the present, the future. Is nothing that he doesn't know in that regard. So that's verse 5. That's a pretty big difference. I did not denote that. So let me put there. That's a huge difference right there. Verse 6. Their array was omitted from the narrative. That their array, more specifically, is the mourning apparel. That's what they were wearing. That's verse 6. Verse 9, talk to. Moses, or I should say Elohim talked to Moses versus talked with Moses. So it's one thing to talk to somebody and being the listener. It's another thing altogether to talk with and have a two-way conversation. So speculation on my part, perhaps it was Moses listening for the most part. Not that it was a two-way conversation, but that's speculation on my part. Verse 12, above all, I know you above all, and you have favor with me. So this is Moses talking. So, okay, Moses is talking to, so indeed it is two-way. Look, you say to me, lead on this people, but you have not showed me whom you will send with me. But you have said to me, I know you above all, and you have favor with me. So he knows him above all the people. Versus, I know you by name. Well, of course he knows. He knows everyone by name, even the stars. But he's talking to Moses specifically that I know you above all this people. I know you, and you have favor with me. That's why I know you above them all. Maybe he knows them more than all, or that there is a special relationship there. So that's why he knows him above them all, because there is something special that Moses has, that relationship with Elohim. So I know you above all of them. You're the apple of my eye in a way. I guess I'm just putting in words there, but you can see that he puts Moses above them all. I think that's one way to look at it. Verse 13, the whole verse is different, so let's read it. If then, Moses speaking, I have found favor in thy sight, reveal yourself to me, that I may evidently see you. So that I may obviously see you. Okay, let's look at the Maz. Now, therefore, I pray thee, so he's like begging, if I have found grace in thy sight, very similar wording, show me now thy way. Okay, thy way. What, a path? That I may know you. Okay, as you can see, it's not the same. Reveal yourself to me versus show me now your way. I think it's pretty clear that, well, I wouldn't say pretty clear, but Yah showed him the way. He's given him much of the commandments. So he's reveal yourself to me. He's talking about something he can see. It says right here, I may evidently see you. So I want to see you obviously, not hidden. Versus that I may know you. Well, you know him through a relationship. So there is that intimate knowledge. It's just that he can't see him. The second half, that I may find favor in thy sight. That I may find grace in thy sight. Okay, that's pretty similar. And that I may know that this great nation is thy people. Why would he doubt that? Maybe Moses was reaching a point where his patience was being tried. And we know this, that Moses, well, maybe spoiler alert, but Moses had to deal with a lot from this people. They were very, not very cooperative in some ways. So let's read in the Maz now. And consider that this nation is thy people. So he's saying, consider that this nation is your people. I think Elohim already knows they're his people, but Moses wants to know that this great nation is your people. And it's not going to be anyone else, or maybe it's coming just from Moses. So that's an interesting detail there. You know, that is a big difference as well. I'm going to note that. That's a big difference. So that's verse 13. Verse 14, before you, he says, Elohim, I myself will go before you and give you rest. Versus, actually, my presence shall go and I will give you rest. Okay, so before you is different, because why is this important? This is important because if somebody goes with you, that's different than going before you, meaning he's going out, he's putting himself in the front of the battle or of the line. He's the one who's going to protect you, make sure that there's no surprises. So going before you is very important, you know, like a leader should do. Verse 15, with us yourself is omitted. And he says to him, Moses talking to Elohim, if you go not up with us yourself, bring me not up hence. So he wants to be sure that you're going with us, not anyone else, not just an angel. I want you to be going with us. Versus, he said unto him, if your presence go not. So that's just the presence, but he's saying, if you go not up with us yourself, I want you to go with us, not just your presence, you. So these are big, big differences. There's a lot of big differences in this chapter. I'll just put BD. I don't want to waste time in this stream, in this video. Verse 16, surely has been omitted. And how shall it be surely known? Okay, so I think this is what Moses is getting at when he said, that I may know that this great nation is your people. So how we would know that, and how Moses is qualifying it, is by saying, I don't want to just know, I want to know it beyond a shadow of the doubt. Surely known. And one way he will know is by his people having found favor with him, not just Moses. Notice he says both I and your people. And he would know if he goes with them. Okay, so that's the thing there. That's the difference. Surely was omitted. Glorified beyond, and the last half of the verse. So both I and thy people shall be glorified beyond all the nations, as many as are upon the earth. So glory and shame are very different, are opposite ends of the spectrum in a honor-shame society. So instead of honor, you could say glory. So both I and thy people shall be honored beyond all the nations. And on the other hand, on the Maz, it says, so shall we be separated. Okay, so sanctified, set apart. I mean, being separated can carry some social stigma to it. But in this case, we know that that's not what it's talking about. It's not separated due to shame or being strange. It's separated because they're sanctified, set apart for holy use. But that is still much different than glorified. Being set apart and glorified are two different things. Glorified is having honor. It's being special and not just holy, but being blessed. It's a lot of things entailed that tie up with that word honor, glory, with that kind of designation. Verse 19, the whole verse is different. And Elohim said, I will pass by before you with my glory. Okay, and let's look at the Maz. And he said, Elohim, I will make all my goodness pass before you. So glory versus goodness. And I will call by my name, Yah, before you. And I will proclaim the name of Yah before you. No, I will call by my name. Okay, well, I guess they're somewhat similar. And I'll have mercy on whom I will have mercy, versus I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious. That no problem there. And I will have pity on whom I will have pity. And I'll show mercy on whom I'll show mercy. So I'd say the first half is pretty different. Not so much the second half, but they're different terms used. Verse 20, the whole verse is different and has a different tone. One is more respectful. The other sounds more forceful and authoritarian. And this is the second time this is happening in this chapter. So let's read that. And Elohim said, you shall not be able to see my face. Why? For no man shall see my face and live. The Maz says, and he said, Elohim, you cannot see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. You cannot. It definitely sounds more forceful. You cannot see my face. Just very strong and to the point. Versus you shall not be able. It's like, let's say you bring a child to the pool, they don't know how to swim, and they think they can swim, but you tell them, no, you won't be able to. You didn't learn it yet. Instead of, no, you can't do that. It's so negative. Can you see the tone there? Can you hear the tone? Verse 21, the rock versus a rock. And Yah said, behold, there is a place by me. You shall stand upon the rock. Wow, that's very strong. Versus you shall stand upon a rock. We know who the rock is symbolically. That is Yehoshua HaMashiach, aka Jesus Christ, to mainstream Christianity. So I'd say there's actually a huge difference. Okay, it's a huge difference. I don't know, it was not capitalized. And then the next verse, we see verse 23, hole versus cliff. Where is that? Oh, 22, verse 22. When my glory shall pass by, then I will put you into a hole of the rock versus a cliff of a rock. Let me just look up what that means, a clift. So the word clift is a archaic term. It's an obsolete term. It's not used in modern vernacular. It comes from the term cleft, or cleft comes from clift. So cleft is a split. A split. So a split in the rock, a hole in the rock. They're similar. I feel like a hole is more where you can look through, like you can use it as a peephole versus a cliff. If it's just a crack, you may not be able to see. But if you have a hole, then yeah, you have a better vantage point. You can see more. A cliff has a narrow point of view or a narrow field of view. Last verse we're going to look at for this chapter is verse 23. It's the last verse, I believe. I will remove my hand, and then shall you see my back parts, but my face shall not appear to you. Interesting. So it sounds like I'm going to do this in such a measured, precise way when I pass by you that you'll see my back. And just in case, because I know you don't know what, you may not know what you're looking at, my face will not appear to you, because if that happens, you won't live, you'll die, right? In verse 20, no man shall see my face and live. The question that begs the question, when Moses was up in the mount for, I think, 40 days, 40 nights, and he was in the presence of Elohim, does that mean he didn't see his face? I believe so. Although he did see something maybe more limited, yet his countenance was altered and he still had the brightness, that the residue of brightness went onto him. It rubbed off on him. So that's interesting. And the Maz says, I will take away my hand, but my face shall not be seen. So it sounds like an instruction to Moses, don't look at my face, but that's not what is happening here. It's that his face will not appear to him. Elohim is just not showing his face to him. I know there's speculation, or not speculation. There's a lot of people believe that the God of the Old Testament is Jesus Christ, the pre-incarnate Christ, and that is I feel pretty sure about that. However, because no one's heard his voice before, this is his voice, so that can't be the Father, talking about the Father, and no one has seen the Father. Was Yehoshua talking about the face of the Father? Because if that is so, then this could possibly be the Father. But because Moses heard his voice and was speaking to him, it cannot be the Father, because Jesus Christ, Yehoshua, was very specific when he said, no man has ever heard his voice or seen the Father. So I'm leaning more towards that the God of the Old Testament, Elohim, was in fact the Word, the Logos, and the Father is yet to be revealed. That's in a future time. I believe that's in Revelation 21. So anyhow, that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. This is Jack Knight signing off for Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. And I forgot to say the blessing. Thank you for your time. May Allah bless you and make your way prosperous. Shalom.